Thank you. For me, the very, very difficult task of standing between you and your drinks, so I'm hoping I can give you a nice and entertaining and informative session. But first let me talk about myself. The stuff that I'm going to talk here about today is based on the work we've done at ProRail. I don't know how many people here came by train, but if you came by train, then you've seen these big information signs next to the tracks showing you what trains are supposed to leave and if they are on time or not on time. Like I said, the work is based on the stuff we did at ProRail, ensuring that the infrastructure to manage those signs and to show always the right information is always up and running. And during that work, we were supposed to provision systems with all kinds of enterprise stuff, Oracle stuff, WebLogic stuff, and we built them ourselves because we noticed there was nothing around. And we also built an extra layer that would help us get those custom types very easy. So the work I'm going to tell you here today is based on that stuff. But I'm going to tell you the story, this work in a story. And it's a story about Robert, and Robert is a sysadmin, and you see the way he looks over here is not that happy because he just had a change form on his desk. And I'm guessing a lot of the sysadmins here know all about change forms and the stress they can induce. This change form is a pretty heavy one. It's about getting infrastructure for 30 extra applications. And if that wasn't too bad in itself, there is a little scratch paper attached to the change form that says, oh yes, and we need 5 extra environments. So in total, it's quite a big change. And Robert is a little bit upset about that. Because when you look at these applications, and if you look at say, infrastructure, you notice that there are some which are just normal plain standard, so actually pretty easy, but there are also a couple that are really, really old. They are quite difficult to do. And there are also a couple of applications and stuff infrastructure that are really, really exotic and really new. So Robert needed to do something to get this work done. And the first thing he did was saying, it can't be done. Stop. This is not standard. We're not going to allow it on our company infrastructure. But then the CEO came down and he said, Robert, I'm sorry, you have to do this. This is mandatory for survival of our company. You really, really have to do it. Then Robert said, well, this is quite a lot of work. So let's say, I have to think, I think I have 3 weeks per applications. And that doesn't sound too long, but if you have 30 times 3 weeks, it becomes a very, very long time. So again, the CEO took the stairs down, went to Robert's desk and said, no, you'll have till the end of this month to at least get the production, the testing and development environment ready. So now I'm going to ask you, who has been in situations like this before? Like high stress, quick deadlines, complex situations. So the approach Robert takes is what I call the green slope approach. He wants his IT environment is his slope, and he wants it to be as flat and smooth as possible, to be as green as possible. So he puts down very strict rules about what is allowed and what isn't allowed, as far as naming conventions, security settings. Well, you can find anything you want. There are rules for it to be allowed on your company infrastructure. Robert does that not because he's a bad guy. He's just a sysadmin and he wants his environment to be stable. That's his job, to get his environment stable. But I think another reason Robert acts like this is because he has no means to manage an environment like this, which is so complex. He wants to be able to go down the slope pretty easy, pretty smooth, and not break his leg or break his arm. But I think, in reality, life is not like a green slope. Life is like a black slope. Projects come in and they demand all sorts of stuff. Difficult stuff. Stuff you haven't done before. And I think this is where Puppet comes in. Puppet not only allows Robert to navigate down safely, but I even think that Puppet allows Robert to come down gracefully. And in this presentation I'm going to hopefully show you how you can do it. To be a master of the black slope, it would help if you can provision your operating system environment in an easy fashion. And I think this is where Puppet is mostly being used. Used to deploy and manage infrastructure setting, operating systems. But there are other levels as well. There are middleware stuff that you have to manage, and there are even application stuff that you have to manage. And then you have these 5 extra environments that you have to manage. I think if we'd only have the lower couple of layers and we would have used Hyra to manage those different environments, Puppet would already be a big help. But to become a master of the black slope, we need to raise the bar. We need to be able to manage, install applications and middleware. So if you look at Forge and you look at all the modules that are available to do this kind of stuff, we have Postgres, we have MySQL, Glassfish, ActiveMQ, and if you look at the Forge and get the number of hits you get trying to get those stuff, then you see there are actually quite some numbers of modules available. MySQL is the champion of 54 modules, and that's a problem in itself because now you don't have to choose what module you have to choose, that you take a module, but you have to choose which one, which is probably even more difficult than just choosing one. But Robert, he works in a company where they use open source software, but they also use enterprise software. Enterprise software like Oracle databases, Oracle Fusion middleware, TIBCO messaging, but you can also have IBM DB2 or WebSphere software. And if you look at the Forge for those kinds of modules, you see quite a different picture. And even those 4 modules at the top for Oracle, that are the modules that we made. So before we came, there were big fat zeros everywhere. No modules available. So, how do we continue? We've seen presentations here before about how you can make manifests, how you can define types, how you can make classes. And actually, we can make all kinds of classes and have all kinds of execs, which are actually just calling scripts. So Puppet has all the means to do this. The Puppet language has construction for all these situations. But I think one of the main reasons Puppet is so strong is the DSL. I really like the DSL, and I think that is the best thing to keep as close to the DSL as possible. So when you start using all kinds of execs, you get these all kinds of little steps. We just go back to procedural programming. And the thing is, if you chain exec on exec on exec, it becomes quite difficult to read. Over here you see also like an example statement where you put a lot of execs on a long line just to get them working together. Bless you. So what you are doing when you are going down this lane is actually, it's not a DSL anymore, but it's also not a Puppet script. It's also not a script anymore. It's somewhere in between. It's the bad things of both worlds. Most of the time, when you want to do something in Oracle or in WebLogic or in any other corporate stuff, you need not only one step, but you need a lot of steps. So that means a lot of small exec statements. And if you look at the output of your manifests run, of your Puppet runs, then you see you got a lot of statements, a lot of logging. And even when things go okay, when they go the way it's supposed to be, it's really hard to see what is going on. One of the demonstrations you had here before is just applying an SSH manifest, which just showed package installed, config file changed, service started. When you try to do this for the enterprise stuff, you get like 2 or 4 screens full of execs just to get one thing running. So it becomes very, very noisy. There is another solution. Puppet has the means to extend itself. You can make what is called custom types. By the way, that's quite different than the types we talked about before, because this is the way Puppet manages internal objects. Over here you see a list of all the stuff that Puppet, the types that Puppet knows by itself. And what I'm proposing is that we can extend those types. Over here you see a lot of operating system stuff. You see Nagios is really big because there are a lot of Nagios stuff. So when we go down the road of making our own types, we notice that they are very, very powerful. You can do everything you want with it. You can, all the stuff you need to do to create an object, modify an object, delete an object, you can program those in Puppet. And Puppet has all the facilities to manage and to interact with your operating systems. So what you can do is you can make an object, any object you want, with a name, attributes, properties, and all the stuff you want. But it's not easy. It's a steep learning curve. And I don't know if there are any people around here who've tried to build custom types. It's not only difficult to know how to do the stuff for the thing you want to manage, but you also have to learn a lot of stuff about the internals of Puppet. How does Puppet work? How does he know how to change, when you have to change an object or to create an object? Fortunately, there is a book. One book, no more. And if you're going down this road, I can definitely recommend this book because it's a good book. Like I told you in the beginning, we went down this road for ProRail. So we made custom types for Oracle stuff, managing users, WebLogic stuff, managing queues, you name it what you want, we may build stuff. And during this work, we noticed that there is like a little abstraction layer. So we built it, we extracted it, and we call it EasyType. And EasyType now helps us to make it, like the name says, easier to make custom types. And we noticed that if we use this module, we started to focus more on the things we wanted to manage and less about the stuff Puppet needs. Obviously, you still need to comprehend the basics of what Puppet is and what Puppet does, but you need less of the internal knowledge of Puppet to find your way. It's built in Ruby, so you still need to be able to find your way about Ruby. When using EasyType, we talked more about how can we create this object? How can I create a user in Oracle? How can I create a table in Oracle? How can I create or modify or delete an object in WebLogic to make this work done? So it helped us quite a lot in our discussion with the domain specialists. And last but not least, there is a time pressure. We were able to build custom types actually pretty fast. How fast? Let's find out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first give an overview and show you on the slides how we can build a custom type. And to make it a little bit easier, I guess most of the people here have some Linux knowledge. So I'm going to build a type to get all the package information and manage packages on a Linux system. Not because that's really valuable, but more because that's a good sample to show you the power of what you can do with EasyType. Over here you see like an overview of the interaction between what Puppet does and what EasyType manages for us. And during the rest of the demo, I'm going to relate to this block to show you what is happening. The first thing you have to do, no matter if you are building something, a module in Puppet itself containing classes or containing defined types, is actually building a module, just creating a module. This command actually creates a directory containing a setup that you can use if you're ready to push your modules up to the forge. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that I'm not playing games on you. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask Puppet an index of the custom package. And the first time I'm going to show it, it'll give you a red arrow showing I know nothing about this custom package. So now it comes in the power of EasyType. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Puppet to build a scaffold for me, to build all the things needed to get a custom type. I just give this command, Puppet type scaffold easy type, the name of the type I'm going to make, and I'm going to give the switches force here because the directories are not yet made, and then it will create everything I need to get the basic stuff running. And if after this I give the command Puppet resource custom package, nothing happens, which is bad because we think something should happen. But one of the big things is there's no error anymore. Actually, at this point in time, Puppet already knows about this custom type. He knows there is something like a custom package, and now he has to know, okay, what's next? Like I said, one of the main reasons and the main things we managed, or we noticed when we used easy type, is that the shift of working in Ruby versus working with your domain object. And the only thing we have to know up front is what do we need to get a list of all the packages available on the system. And for the Linux sysadmins here, that's actually quite an easy question. We need the RPM utility to get a list, a query of all the packages. And over here at the top, you see the command you have to give. To tell Puppet, to tell easy type, how we can get this information, we have to define, and actually in the scaffold it's already predefined, the method to get raw resources, and to tell it you can get the list of the packages by using the command rpm-qa-qf and then the name of the columns we want to have. So this is all we need to tell the custom type what he needs to get a list of all the packages available. There is one little thing. You see the string here, RPM, and Puppet doesn't know anything about RPM, so we first have to tell Puppet, we first have to tell easy type that RPM is nothing, it's just an operating system command you use to get information from the system. And now, if we do the same command and ask Puppet the resources of the custom package, you get this list. So actually, we already now have told Puppet, have told easy type how to get the list of all the packages available on the system. But we want to add more. A package has a version. So now we have to think about how to get this version information back. And over here you see that an object has what's called an attribute. And you have parameters, which are sort of attributes, and we have properties. So what is the difference, and how can we make one? Over here I got a manifest for an old man who wants to manage his waste size. And over here, on the left side it's before the application of this manifest, and on the right side is the situations after we've applied this manifest. So what you see here is that the waste size is changed from big to medium. When we want to do something like that, so when we want to manage the state of the waste side of this man, we have to define what's called property. And the version is something that we want to manage, so we're going to define a property. But there are also other things available. We can also have a parameter. And parameters, for example, you can use when you just want to enter, like what directories can I find, the base setup, stuff that you don't need to manage, but information your custom type needs to get its work done. Another reason to make a parameter is, for example, when you specify a password that you only want to know when you have to create an object, but you cannot retrieve, so that you cannot check if the password you gave in the beginning will be the same as the password that's still going on. So looking at this information, we have parameters and we have properties. We want to make at the version number to our own custom type. Again, we can ask easy type to generate this for you. You give this command, Puppet type generate property, the name of the property, version, and the custom type we want to create it for. and EasyType goes about its work. And now, if we ask Puppet the resource information for all the custom packages available, you see a list of all the packages, not only including its ensure stuff, but also including the version number. So with these couple of steps, we've told Puppet how to manage a package with a version. How many steps were there? 2, 3? I think it's pretty amazing. I hope you think so too. So now we can get information from our system, what is available. But it's always nice to know what's available, but it's really more important to create stuff. So how does this work in Puppet? I always like to use the metaphor of a blueprint, which is our manifest, and a photographer which goes around in your system making photographs of all your systems. What Puppet does internally is it matches those photographs with the blueprint, and it checks to see if there is a difference between what's on the blueprint and what's on the photographs. And if it sees somewhere that on your blueprint it says there should be an Oracle user here named John, and on the photographs it sees that there's no Oracle user named John, then it has to do something. It has to create a user. So all this stuff you don't have to worry about. You only have to tell EasyType what to do when Puppet notices that there is a difference between your photograph and your blueprint. On create, and then Puppet, that is called whenever Puppet notices these differences. So again, first let's look at the domain. We want to install a package, and this time I'm not going to use RPM, but I'm going to use yum. That's because it's nice for this example. And we have to tell Puppet to just give the command yum install the name of the package and use -I to get away from any questions yum might ask you. So, but you think, there was something else, there was this version number. How does Puppet know if there are more than one version available? I would like him to explicitly only install the version number I've specified. Also, in the file that you use to define your property version, there is also a method called onApply, which is called, and it just appends a little string to your command. So we just built the command yum install, and this part, the -version, is going to be appended to the existing command. So if we have like a really complex command, we can just, with all the attributes and all the properties, we can just append little stuff to our command. But there is one other stuff. In the example before, we just told Puppet that RPM is the command that is in charge of managing packages, but now we're going to use yum. So again, we have to tell Puppet that not only RPM is the way to manage commands, but we can also use yum to use commands. So now, if I ask Puppet to apply a manifest which installs the Z shell, it will say, I've compiled the package, so it knows about these attributes, it knows what to do. I have seen that there is a difference between my blueprint and my pictures, so I have to create this package with this specific version, and it will show me it's got the work done. So I think this was, again, 2 or 3 more steps, and now we've got a custom package built that can not only index our system, but it can also create stuff. Next to creating stuff, we would surely also like to delete stuff. And again, the method is the same. Puppet has this blueprint, and on that blueprint it sees that there is a specific stuff that you want removed. So you have it declared ensure is absent. On the pictures, the Puppet system sees that it is available. There is this user called John, and you just stated on your manifest, on your blueprint, that it shouldn't be there. So it does all that stuff, and it then goes back to your custom type and says, I want you to delete the stuff. I want you to destroy the stuff. And again, the only thing we have to think about is, what do we do when we want to remove a package? We call the yum erase command. And again, like before, we have to tell it to the on-destroy command, and we can erase the package. So if we apply this manifest, we will see that, you see over here that it's ensure absent. It's yellow, I don't think it's, well, trust me, it says absent. Then it goes in, it makes its photos, it looks at the manifest, at the blueprint, sees the difference, uh-oh, this package should not be there, and it removes it, it calls this code. I could tell you about modification, but I guess you already know what that's going to be like. So, where are we at raising the bar? We've created modules for Oracle database and for a lot of Fusion stuff, and we are not totally at where we want to be, but we have already raised the bar quite considerably. We've created database modules for installation of an Oracle database and to manage all sorts of stuff inside an Oracle database. We've created 11 custom types, and we can manage users, table space, rights, whatever you want, we've got it. We've also created types that can manage for people over here who knows a little bit about Oracle, storage management facilities for Oracle, we can manage those too. On the Fusion middleware side, we've built 40 custom types. Edwin, my colleague over here, has built 40 custom types to manage the most anything you want in WebLogic, we can manage through custom types. At the moment, we are trying to get a module up and running for TIBCO. So now it's good to go back to John. Sorry, to Robert, not the user John we wanted to remove. User Robert, he looked at this module, he looked at this stuff and said, this can really help me become a master of the back slope. So he went in, he used some of the modules that were already available for managing Oracle databases and managing WebLogic. And for the stuff that there were no modules available, he used EasyType to build the stuff himself. And he became like a very not stressed out person, sitting like this at his desk. And I hope you can manage the same. So, if you want to, you can have it your way, look at the stuff and use it. I can have some questions, but I think I'm pretty fast. I don't know if there are people that would like to see it in live, but you can also try it at home. I don't know how desperate for drinks you guys are, but I can show you the stuff in real life.
Yeah.
Questions or real life?
I had a question real life.
Okay.
How different is implementing
the microphone.
Okay, we're going with questions, yeah.
how different is implementing a custom type to implementing a provider for an already existing type?
What EasyType does, it provides you with a very simple provider, which does all the stuff for you. You can also use EasyType to make just a type and use and create whatever provider you want. There are some helpers that can help you, but I don't think its strength lies over there. Its strength lies more at the type side.
Thanks.
Excellent. Other questions? Do folks want to see that demo? Put your arms up. Are we down for this? Yeah, I think we want to see the demo. There we go. We'd love to see this.
This is always dangerous for me, yeah? You know, live coding.
Give your question.
Live coding is difficult, but
Sorry.
I'm going to take the challenge on. Over here I have over here I have a little Vagrant box running Linux. I already installed the EasyType module, so I don't have to do that. And to help me, I've got the commands over here.
So again, this is the command that actually is nothing easy type specific, it just creates a module, and the syntax of this command is, it demands that you first have the name of your organization, of the person, so that's why it's called robot-my own easy type. It asks you all kind of stuff. It's not really important. So now I created, it is really important, but not for now. I created, you can see over here, directory robot, my own easy type. I'm gonna go down into this. You see it created a metadata file, it's created a rake file, readme, it created a directory with specs and a directory with manifests. When you look good, it didn't create a library directory, and easy types or custom types need a library directory. But now I'm gonna create the scaffold. To make it easy on me on the demo, I've included a switch no comments, because what we've tried to do is put all sorts of information if you just generate the stuff to help you make it easy. But right now, you see it created, if we again look, we see that it created a library file. You see, like demo trouble coming in, eh? I see the trouble already. I wanted to do this at my vagrant directory, so I could easily show you the stuff. So I'm gonna recreate the module. Over here. And I am going to, first, here you see the error. So at this point in time, I just created the module, but I didn't create any types yet, and Puppet doesn't know anything about this. So now I'm going to create a type. Now again, I'm going to ask Puppet about the custom packages, and you see the error is gone. There's no information, but the error is gone. So at this point in time, Puppet actually knows that there is something in the world, there's something in the universe which is called a custom package. So here's this library directory, and there is a file called custom package. And over here you see the scaffold that Puppet, that EasyType created. You see these on create, on modify, on destroy commands. And you see this to get raw resources stuff. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to replace this to get raw resources stuff with the code I've just shown you. Again, it calls the RPM command with the switches -QA, and it changes it into this comma separated data into something Puppet can manage. And we have to tell it that the command RPM is something he has to transfer to the operating system. So now, if we look at the resources, you see that I have a list of all the resources available on my system, all the custom packages, but without the version number. So let's add the version number. voila, magic is done. Here is the version number of all the packages available on my system. How many commands? 4? Now let's try to make it so that we can also create new resources. Again, here is this onCreate, and I'm going to change it with this command. And there was one other step. We also wanted to include the version information. Over here you see a directory which is called custom package. And there you see a file which is called name. Every object on a Puppet system must have a name. And you see a version. Over here in the main custom package file you see that there are two things available. A parameter called name and a property called version. And I'm going to add this version number. Over here. And like I told in the presentation, what you are actually doing here is you are building a command based on strings. So it just adds the string dash with the version number, and that's all it does. So now, and this is sometimes the tricky stuff because of I'm using something to download now from the net, and it should be available, but make it a little bit. Huh? I've got Jan. Very good. So it needs not only one command, but it needs both commands, so we have to make it an array. It compiles the catalog. Probably the version is not available. Like I said, this is the difficult stuff. Oh, package insured. Now let's remove the package. And it's removed. So those were the steps necessary to create a basic custom type which can index the system, create a resource, delete a resource, and most of the time modification is a little bit more difficult. So I'm pretty sure you can guess how it will be done, but it's a little bit beyond the scope of this demo. So that's it.
Do we have questions? Oh, yes, sorry, Danny.
First of all, congratulations, because this is pretty cool. We've written types and providers 100 times before, and this makes things a lot easier. I did have one question, though. Normally the split between a type and a provider is that type is the abstract thing, like a package or a file or a service, and the provider is the one that includes implementation details like calling out to RPM. Whereas what you're currently showing has everything inside the type.
Actually, no. It does stuff below the surface. There is still a provider available. The thing is, when you look at the enterprise stuff, which this is targeted at, most of the operating system stuff that makes it different on Linux or on Sun OS is in SQL, for example. So what we've decided to make it easier for the programmers making these custom types, we just abstracted and built them a layer that can show them an SQL command, and all the stuff below that is managed somewhere else, still at the provider level, but you don't see that over here. So it helps them to think about the whole package, and the provider stuff is abstracted away from them.
Makes sense to me. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry.
Next to the types and providers, you also had the challenge for packaging, I think. How did you solve that?
Can you be
like
a
an
little bit more
Oracle comes
specific?
in one hell of a bash script.
Yeah, at this point in time, we have custom types for mostly managing the insides of the Oracle and the WebLogics, and we don't have custom types for the installation of Oracle. Installation of Oracle and installation of WebLogic is done doing like normal classes, normal defined types, which manage all the stuff. Like for instance, for installing Oracle, you have to create an auto answer file based on the stuff you need, and then we get Oracle to do the job. We have like a sort of a custom type we're working on installing Oracle, which looks a little bit like a normal package with some extra options, but we haven't really worked on that too much, because actually what we've got now works okay, and it's a little bit like all the other stuff you want to install. So this has not been our biggest problem, so we have not worked on it that much, but it can be done, and actually we have done it already a little bit, but it's not production ready. Yeah.
Are you supposing that you're also using Web3 NQ or IBM DB2 to provision these applications?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Like I said, we are now working on trying to build a TIBCOM module, and we are thinking about expanding this line into more corporate enterprise kind of stuff.
Are you going to deal with the flight messages in queues, for example, also dynamic data in the tables of DB2 tables?
That's the same question as having tables in Oracle. We haven't really done that yet, and I don't think it's really useful to create a custom type for a table or for a column. But what I think can be useful is to create a type which says my data structure, an Oracle data structure, and then have it a version, and then have the means to either through update scripts or downgrade scripts provide a means for application developers to introduce different version of their schemes into Puppet and have Puppet manage those. So that's the idea. We had a little proof of concept, and it worked okay, but it's not production ready yet.
And then also messages with NQ or NQ?
Like I said, we haven't got MQ support there, but on the WebLogic side, we can create queues with all kinds of attributes. And the ideas behind it for MQ are the same. So the methods to get the stuff done is the same. We just need different commands.
Okay, thank you.
We have time for one more question.
So if I've generated my own type using this, do I still need to have the EasyType module installed, or is it more like a code generator?
No, it's got a generator stuff, but it also got a runtime. So to get all this work done, you need some abstraction layer between your custom type and Puppet. So you need to have the EasyType module installed to get this running.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much.